So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Well, I'd like to say hello to everyone out there. Today is Tuesday, April the 12th, and you're watching Amateur Radio Roundtable. We meet here every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Central Time or 0100 Universal Time. This show is also simulcast on the famous shortwave radio station, WBCQ, called The Planet, and we're on 5130. We'd like to hear from any of our shortwave listeners out there. If you would, send us an email to tom@w5kub.com, tom@w5kub.com. Let us know where you hear, how you're hearing us, and we're very interested in that. I'd like to know if our friends down in Costa Rica that are listening are on tonight. And if you are listening on shortwave, you can also tune in to the webcast on w5kub.com, and that way you'll get to see the picture, you'll get to see all the video, and you can even log in the chat room and communicate with us. We do have telephone lines that we'll turn on probably later in the show, so you can participate in the show with us and with our guest. Just one quick notice. Here's a picture someone sent me. Scott Dolatowski sent me this note. This is his 12-year-old son. He just got his ham license. Some of you guys may remember we had a show back a number of months ago, 4 or 5 months ago, about paying it forward and getting your ham license. And we purchased his son a ham study guide from Ham Test Online, and I said, I want to know how it's going, and here it is. He's already got his license. He's come back. So we're going to have him on the show probably in a few weeks, and we'll talk about him and how he got his license. So let's see, tonight we've got a really special guest with us again tonight. Our guest is Alan Weiner. He is the owner of WBCQ, the shortwave station that we're on tonight. And Alan is, I don't know what the word is, famous, infamous, well-known. There's a long history there. And Alan got started, like many of us, very early in our life into radio, and we're going to look at some pictures and just talk with Alan here in just a minute. Alan is probably renowned for his work in putting on a pirate radio station, many pirate radio stations, most notably Radio New York International, where Alan, I don't know how a kid, well, see, Alan may not have been a kid, we'll ask him about this in a minute, but where, this guy buys, a 200, 300 foot ship, he tows it out in the ocean, he puts a pirate radio station on, and he fights the Coast Guard, Customs, the FCC, the police, and they finally haul him in, but we'll talk about the outcome of that in just a minute. But since then, Alan has, I'll say, gone straight. I'll just put it that way. And he has brought up a number of radio stations, which are all licensed by the FCC. And we want to talk a little about how hard that was to bring those stations up. So I'm going to bring him in right now, and I may have to adjust the picture. But Alan, how you doing?
I'm fine, and Good evening to all. Yes, it's good to be on your show again, Tom.
Man, hey, you're looking good there. You're down in Florida. You said it's hot down here.
It's hot. It was almost 90 degrees, but the humidity wasn't too bad, so it was. I like the hot weather. You know, I'm a thin guy, so the hot weather works for me. I can't stand the cold at the radio stations up in northern Maine. And, you know, we have 2 seasons in northern Maine: July and winter.
July and what?
July and winter.
Oh, July and winter, two seasons up here. Let me see if I can get a picture, split screen here. There we go. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you know, yeah, I mean, it's kind of neat. You go down to Florida, in the winter, and you back up in Maine in July, I guess, right?
I'm leaving in about 10 days.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I go back to the radio stations for the summertime and basically work my butt off up there, you know, repairing stuff, working on the antennas, working on the transmitters, keeping WBCQ going.
Well, I'm sure it's a big job. And, you know, with the winters that you guys have up there, it probably does all kinds of damage to your antennas and different things. I'm sure you have to do some spring cleaning up there and
we do.
And adjustments, right?
This winter was not bad. The winter before it was rough. We've had some pretty bad winters. We had a winter once that collapsed one of our buildings because there was just so much snow load. But this winter wasn't too bad.
Well, you know, we probably picked up a lot of new people on the show since you were on here a few months ago. So we're going to probably cover a few of the things. We're probably going to overlap with some of the things we talked about, but it is such an interesting story that I can't get enough of it, and I'm sure we'll get different details this time. Maybe you can keep the story that, you know, the details the same. You know, I'm gonna check you to see if there anything changes here.
Oh, okay. You're gonna see if my story is.
Yeah, we're gonna fact check you here. So.
Oh no, I feel like a politician now.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw this up here. You know, I put this on our website, on our Facebook site today, and there are so many people that commented about this, Alan. They said, I remember that, or they said, I've got that magazine, or why do I remember that magazine? But this is 1987, Popular Communications. That was a really good magazine back then. I really,
was a great magazine.
Really enjoyed it.
Shame we lost it.
Yeah, and there you are up there, on a ship, and do you call it the ship, Sarah? It's not the ship, right?
The name of the ship was the Sarah. That was named after my first wife.
Okay, so the ship Sarah right there, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but you were really dedicated. Let me tell you, you're really dedicated to do something like, I mean, to go out and buy a ship and put it out in the ocean like that and put the station on.
Well, we wanted to do free radio off of New York City, and this was the only legal way we thought we could do it. So,
and you thought you were legal, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
And okay, so I don't know. I guess there's all kinds of ways to interpret regulations now, but the bottom line is, after they arrested you guys and hauled you guys in, they finally dropped all the charges, didn't they?
Yeah, it was interesting. We operated for 4 or 5 days in July of 1987 on the good ship, the Sarah, Radio New York International. We operated on 1620 AM, 101.7 FM, and 6240 kilohertz shortwave, and 190 kilohertz longwave. We had 4 transmitters going. We operated for about 4 days, and finally the Coast Guard came and seized our ship and seized us physically. And but we were not cited with violating any FCC rules and regulations. They took us off the ship on some obscure law in the federal code, stating that we were impeding the proper functioning of the U.S. government, some kind of bogus BS like that. And but the damage was done. They took us off the vessel. The FCC went on board. and started smashing up and cutting up stuff and breaking cables and tearing things apart. And yeah, you know, all the charges were dropped because we were not violating the law. We were operating on a internationally registered vessel to the country of Honduras in international territory. So the bottom line is no laws were broken.
And here's a picture of you here. It looks like you've got some bracelets on there.
Yeah, those are called handcuffs. And, you know, well, they always like to make a show of things.
Yeah.
That was a hot day. It was an interesting day.
Yeah.
It was another character building experience day, like many of them are.
So, I mean, here you are handcuffed. Your friend there's handcuffed. They're dragging you guys away. I mean, how did you feel? I mean, did you guys feel really threatened at that time? Did you feel like, uh-oh, I've done bad? Or, I mean, what was going through your mind?
Well, I was a little, you know, I mean, I was a little bit concerned and scared because, you know, there were guns and people with guns, even though the Coast Guard folks conducted themselves very professionally. But I knew that that we were not doing anything in violation of the federal FCC rules. I knew that. There have been many free radio ships built around the world. Of course, Radio Caroline is probably one of the most famous. You know, Radio London and a handful of others that have operated. The Peace ship, the good ship Peace, operated off the coast of Israel for decades by A.B. Nathan. And then A.B. passed away, and then the ship was finally brought in, and they went to a more land-based operation. And so I knew, you know, we knew our rights and we knew the law, but unfortunately, we were not Al Sharpton or Donald Trump. We did not have the political or financial clout behind us, and we learned quickly that the federal government basically can do what it wants to you because they have the guns, the lawyers, and the money, and that's what we learned about the radio ship deal with Radio New York International. And it's, you know, this is a very litigious country, and if the U.S. government doesn't want you to do something like they didn't want us to do back in 1987. As my attorney said, they'll just keep throwing paper at you. They'll just keep throwing the paper at you until you go broke. And that's basically what happened. We violated no laws. We never were fined a cent. We were never convicted of any crime whatsoever. But the job was done, and the good ship Sarah was silenced.
Well, I know what you're talking about. When the government comes after you, even if you're in the right, it's a very powerful organization to try to fight. So,
yeah, well, you have to have good legal representation. You have to have, or great public notoriety helps, or you have to have a heck of a lot of money. And unfortunately, we were getting the notoriety. The money situation was always tough. Just like in the amateur radio community, the free offshore broadcasting community is not the most well funded, and we had to, I had to scrape and borrow and sell and trade and do all kinds of stuff to get the ship and the equipment and the generators and the diesel fuel and properly register the vessel and all this. It's a whole story. It's in the book Access to the Airwaves, by the way.
Yeah, well, and there's some questions in the chat room already. We'll talk about them in a minute. Let's not forget. They want to know what kind of transmitting power type of antennas. I'm not sure I've got another picture of your ship up here or not, but I mean, gee, Alan, by this time you were an adult. Doing this, and you were
I was, what was it, 33, 34 years old?
Yeah, and you're trying to live your dream, and put this radio station on.
Yeah.
But even at 33 years old, man, to do what you did, let me tell you, when I was 33, I couldn't have gone out there and bought a 200, 300 foot ship. I couldn't have gone and bought a 10,000 pound surplus military anchor. My understanding is that the engine didn't run, but you had it towed out to sea.
Right.
That cost money, and you had to equip it with antennas. And you said you had it on 4 different bands: AM, I think FM, shortwave.
Correct.
So, what kind of power were you running on these frequencies?
Well, 1620 was 5,000 watts. 101.7 was 1,000. 300 watts on 6240 using a BC610 transmitter. And we had an old Coast Guard beacon transmitter on 190 kilohertz. That was only, that was 50 watts. That was only 50 watts. So our main powerhouse, if you could call it, was our 5,000 watt old Gates plate modulated transmitter that performed very well. It did very well on 1620. The antenna we were using, we had a 130-foot tower forward of the ship, and we had a sloping T antenna from the top of the tower back to the stern of the boat on a smaller, probably 20-foot tower on the back of the vessel. And we had a cage antenna with a feed line dropping down to a big bushing that went into the transmitter hole, and that hooked up to the 5 kilowatt AM. And that put out a really good signal. We got reports from all over, because at that time, 1610 was absolutely a clear channel. It was the the upper end of the broadcast band, which had not been opened to the expanded band yet. So those frequencies were completely open. So 1620 was a great frequency to go on and get good distance and not cause any interference.
Now, I know your father was an attorney. Well, what type of attorney was he?
Dad, well, he was family.
Family
he
attorney?
estates and divorce and some corporate.
So
kind of a GP, I guess.
So when you were getting involved in all this stuff, and of course your dad's an attorney. He's not an FCC attorney or anything like that, but I mean, he knows the law, and he's probably smarter than you and I was at that time, right? In our age.
Dad was definitely smarter. Than
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
No question about that.
So what kind of advice? Let me show you. Let's see. I've got something here that I'm gonna pop up here. Here's a letter. Here's a letter that the FCC sent. I think they sent it to your dad.
Oh, the loop letter, yeah.
To tell you the truth, and he said your son Alan is being a bad boy, and basically you need to fix that. So how did Daddy handle that?
Dad was very understanding of my independent nature. Dad always reasoned with me. And one thing I love about my mom and dad is they treated me with due respect, and they treated me, as an adult. And my father, when I get myself into trouble, he'd get angry, but he would reason with me, and he'd ask, well, why are you doing this? What are you trying to do? And I would explain it to him. And when I was doing pirate radio from the basement of his house, that's what that letter is. That's we were operating. I was operating a pirate station on 1620 with 50 watts of power back in 1968.
Yeah, this letter was 18 years before Radio New York International.
This is 18 years before the offshore stuff, and I built a complete radio station in my dad's basement. I used an old military surplus BC 1100 50-watt transmitter that I bought from the Fair Radio Sales Company of all places.
Yeah, Fair, yeah.
And built a little control console. That's working on some stuff there.
There you are down in the basement. You look like I don't know. You look pretty intellectual there.
But you couldn't buy studio equipment in 1968. It was just too expensive. So I would build stuff out of old carbon microphones and turntables that I found in the trash, and I built a small switching box out of an old wooden cigar box, and just put all this together, and we went on the air. I think we first went on the air as WRAD in late 1968, September of 1968. And we were, I mentioned this, I think, in the first installment of this. We were on the air for, I think, 2 or 3 days, and we got ratted out by a ham radio operator in high school. And that's what generated that loop letter. But Dad was reasonable about it.
Yeah.
He basically would say, "Well, son, you can't do this because it's against the law, and you need a license." And I would say, well, I can't get a license because it costs, millions of dollars to build a radio station in the New York City area.
Yeah.
And he understood that. He understood my general frustration, but he would leave it at that, saying, well, son, you just can't do it. And that was the end of it. So I would, say, okay, and that was the end of that. And then several months later, we were on the air.
Oh, hey, hang on a second. I got to figure out what to do with this. I think no, you're still there, aren't you?
Okay.
Yeah, you're still there. All right. We had a little interference come in there. But hey, okay, so you got ratted out by a ham radio operator.
I'm not hearing you.
Oh, you're not hearing me? Are you not? You're not hearing me? Can you hear me, Alan? Can you hear me?
Nope, I'm not hearing you, my dear friend.
Okay. Well, this is interesting.
Nope, still not hearing anything.
All right, let me. I'm going to hang up and call. I'll call you back. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
Hang. Are you hearing me or not? No. All right, so this is interesting. Let me call Alan back. I don't know what happened. Boy, that doesn't sound good.
All right.
Can you hear me now, Alan?
How we doing?
You hear me?
No, I still can't hear anything, and.
All right.
I hear some crunching. Ah, yes. Crunch.
Bunch of noise. Can you hear me now?
Nope.
Okay.
I can't hear you, Tom.
The software that put the noise called your mic to set the noise.
No.
Okay. Hold on one second. Oh, hold on. I might know what it was.
Right, wait a second. I can hear something really faint.
Yeah. Hang on. It's a Google phone
I'll
here.
boost my level.
We're gonna get there. 1 second.
All right. Yeah. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Actually, somebody called in on another line and wasn't expecting that, and somehow it took the audio over.
Oh.
But you're hearing us now.
I'm hearing you loud and crystal clear, my friend.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully it's not too loud. Okay, so let's get back to where we were. This is the funny part here.
Yeah, I was just mentioning about, my dad's reaction.
Yeah.
And, so after that, of course, we went back on the air. We went back on the air until we were finally... We were on the air, for a long time, serving the area of Yonkers and the Bronx and New Jersey and whatever, with both AM and FM. And we were on the air until we got busted on August 12th, 1971.
So let's, we're not going to hold any grudges against anybody, but you got turned in by a ham radio operator, right?
Yes,
What,
I
about
did.
16 years old?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, that area, huh? And you had a station on...
And I know I mentioned this last time because I knew who did it.
Yeah.
And he admitted it to me the next day.
And then what happened? I see a battery charge coming up here.
Well, I can't remember the guy's name. Isn't that something after all these years? Because I remember I went to high school the next day and I was at lunch and I confronted him and I said, "Did you rat me out to the FCC?" And he says, Oh, yes, I did, because I'm an arm of the federal government, and I slugged him right in the kisser.
Oh man. And okay, so you slugged him. Now, back in those days, the schools were probably more lenient. Did you get kicked out of school, or they just tell you to go back to class?
Well, I got dragged up to the vice principal's office and told not to do it again.
Just to the vice principal?
That actually would happen a lot.
Yeah, not the principal, just the vice principal. You see, you could have done more probably.
Well, nobody likes a rat. What can I tell you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a long time ago. So that's an interesting story there. So
in some ways, I'm glad I don't remember it.
So that was at age of 16, and then 18 years later, you're back to Radio New York International, and during all this time, you've had radio stations on. You even put a TV station on in New York, didn't you?
Yeah. When we were doing the pirate thing in Dad's basement. I converted an old aircraft jamming transmitter to, accept high video bandwidth on channel 6. And we put a video signal out on channel 6. I built a 2-bay turnstile antenna on top of Dad's house. He didn't really like that very much. And we went and the transmitter put out about 100 watts. And it covered very well, because the New York area, we had a station on channel 5, and then of course the high band on channel 7. Channel 6 was kind of vacant in the Yonkers area, kind of. So we did some experiments with television, but not too deeply. Just a few experimental telecasts using a small converted closed circuit TV camera. Heavily converted to operate I remember I used an 829B as a video modulator tube to grid modulate a pair of, 4CX 150Bs.
Wow.
There we go.
Yeah, I remember you say 829. I think I remember that. That was a little short, fat tube with two
short. It was
two
a Pinto,
plates that stuck out the top. Yeah,
tube.
yeah.
29Bs are.
Yeah.
They were available on the surplus market in great quantities. And they were a good tube. You could get 50 watts out of those things, sometimes more if you really crack the whip on them.
I loved it back then. There was so much of that surplus stuff around that you could tear up and build stuff with. But back then, man, I mean, we're talking about you had to have money if you were going to put a pretty decent camera on. I mean, the cameras there weren't many cameras around that you could get your hands on.
No, I was fortunate. My father and I were good scroungers. And I've always been a good scrounger. I think that's one of the reasons why we were able to do a lot of what we can do. Is because I'm a wheeler dealer. I am. I buy and sell, and I scrounge, and I look for stuff. And I did it back then, and I'd find stuff and trade around, and bargain and wheel and deal. And of course, living in Yonkers, just not too far away from the great canal street.
So here's a picture here. Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, that's a picture of Timtron.
Yeah.
Sitting in a rental truck that's completely overloaded with 20 to 50 kilowatt iron that we cleaned out of Armstrong transmitter in Syracuse, New York, probably 10 years ago.
So are those pole pigs there on the front there?
Yeah, those are pole pigs, but they were actually used as plate transformers.
Oh yeah. See, that's the kind of stuff I like to get in all my life. I don't do that much anymore like that.
Where Tim is sitting, he is sitting on a 50 kilowatt mod transformer. And next to him on the left, which is the square box, that's a 50 kilowatt retard coil.
Wow.
Or choke, audio choke.
Yeah. Wow.
But we scrounge all this stuff, and that's how I keep BCQ going. I mean, I can't afford to go out and pay $1 million for a transmitter. We have to basically convert broadcast and military equipment and keep that stuff going. And I picked that stuff up literally for the hauling. literally for the scrap value. And I'm still doing it. I'm still doing it.
So, Alan, you remind me of me a little bit. I don't like to buy stuff, but I go to the scrap stuff, and hey, if I can build something that works, that's what I like to do. And you could, I don't know, what's the shortwave station cost these days? If you just go out and have somebody put one on professionally, it's in the millions, isn't it?
Well, it can be in the millions. Yeah, I mean, people call me with the shortwave, and they ask me about building it. And first I look at them and I say, well, I mean, if you're building it for a certain reason, that's one thing. If you're building it to make money, think again. There are better ways. But yeah, I mean, if you did it by the book, a turnkey installation, I mean, you could spend millions and millions of dollars doing it. If you do it the way that we do it at WBCQ, we basically roll all our own stuff, our antennas, transmission lines, transmitters, power supplies, everything. We scrounge around. I'm still scrounging around.
I mean, why would you want to go out and spend $20,000-$50,000 for a power supply when you can get a surplus one that probably just as good or better?
Yeah, well, it's luckily it's kind of easier these days because a lot of the stuff that we use isn't really used anymore. The biggest problem that I have is when we look for spare parts is finding it before it's been scrapped, or before it's gone into the dumpster. Luckily, we have a lot of spare parts at the WBCQ transmitter site. Between Timtron and I, we really, people give us stuff. They donate equipment. They donate tubes. They donate whatever they have. We've had radio stations call us up and say, look, we got all this 50 kilowatt stuff, just come down and it's yours for the taking. So we go down, we grab what we can, we take it, we store it, and that's worked out pretty well.
Oh man, I've got a lot of pictures, but they're not in any order that we're talking about now.
Never in any order.
Yeah, they're never in any order here. It's just fascinating though. Here's a QSL card. I guess that you made up for your Radio New York International.
Yeah, that's when we were buying time on the great WWCR and through George McClintock. Those were good days, and they were a lot of fun. We got on shortwave. I got on shortwave first with WWCR. This is back, 1990, long time ago.
Yeah. Now here's a pirate radio convention. This is the second annual. How many did you have?
We just had two.
Okay.
We had one, I think, in '72, and we had one in '73.
Yeah.
Because Tom, we were very passionate about the pirate radio scene, because a lot of people might not realize that back when we were doing the pirate radio thing in the '60s and '70s, there was a lot of agitation. A lot of young people like us were pretty upset with the government and pretty upset with the war in Vietnam and kids getting killed, the potential of us getting killed. And there were a lot of political opinions going around and a lot of social opinions going around. And there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was no email, there was no personal computers. Radio and TV were it. And the majority of radio and TV that covered areas, major metropolitan areas, were controlled by large corporations. And well, I mean, I don't want to say big money, but it was very difficult to get into it. And as a young person, I guess when I was in high school, I was a geek. Yes, I was. I had the plastic pencil protector and the geeky glasses and the really short hair and all this stuff. But I loved electronics and I loved science and technology. And I said to myself, and I saw, I'd watch the news, the evening news at night, and I'd see all these kids demonstrating in Yonkers, in Washington, D.C., and all this kind of, the summer of love and all that stuff. And I said, all right, well, what can I do? All right, what can I do? Well, what do I know? All right, well, I'm really into radio and electronics. And then I think I mentioned this in the first installment when I was with you a few months ago, that I saw a special on NBC television. This was back in the mid-'60s, about the history of broadcasting in the United States during the golden age of radio in the 20s and 30s. And I was so impressed with it because radio back then wasn't just a jukebox. It was news, information, entertainment, all the nightly serials and, the Shadow Knows and all that stuff. And radio was it, man. I mean, radio was like, what the internet is today. And I looked at it as a young person and I said, well, maybe I can do something like this and put a radio station on so all my friends, all my school buddies, and everybody out there can get on the air and give their opinion and let people know what's going on and how they feel. It's called free speech. And I really felt very strongly about it. And of course, as a young person, I think I wrote a letter to the FCC about it, asking about licensing, and I got all this stuff back, basically saying that you're out of your mind and forget about it. There's nothing available in the New York City area. All the frequencies are taken, and it costs millions of dollars to build a radio station, and etc. So I scratched my head and I said, well, I know that's not true because I know that there's like the upper end of the AM broadcast dial, which is vacant. Every time and all the radios back then were analog, so you'd tune a radio, above 1600, and you just would get noise. So I said, well, wait a minute. Why can't I just put a transmitter on the air and broadcast on this clear frequency and build my radio station? And that's what I did. That's the simple of it.
Well, it sounds like you were against all odds there. I'm sure the FCC knew who you were, and they were trying to tell you, I guess, that you probably were not going to get a license.
Well, I mean, that's basically what I understood.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm 16, 17 years old, and I want to get on the air, and I want to, contribute something. A lot of my friends were, marching in the streets and protesting, and I'm saying to myself, well, what can I do? Well, what I can do is I can probably build a radio station because, I went to the local library. That's what people did back then. And I got books out on transmitters and antennas and all that stuff. And I mean, I got, real stuff. The amateur radio books were great, but they didn't have anything to really do with the broadcast frequencies. So I went and got books on transmitter design and, antenna designs for medium wave and long wave and all this. And I read all this stuff and I said, all right, so this is how you do it. And luckily, back then, it was the wonderful world of military surplus, because I started pricing stuff like mod transformers and tubes and filament transformers and plate transformers and filter capacitors and whatever, and it started really adding up. And then I see, for $10 you can go and buy a BC 191 50-watt transmitter, and I said, well, why don't I buy this transmitter for $10?
Mm-hmm.
Bring it back here. And in fact, one of my first pirate radio transmitters was a BC 191 transmitter, used 4 211 vacuum tubes. I remember I built a power supply for it to give it the 12 volts at 50 amps it needed, out of a 60 amp variac and a diode bank that I built with surplus diodes that I bought for 50 cents a piece down in the Cortlandt Street area, and computer filter capacitors that I bought for another quarter here and there. And I remember doing pirate radio with that in Dad's basement, and I remember the power supply I used was the original 1,000 volt dynamotor that went with it. Gee, one of my first pirate stations used a motor generator for the plates. How many people can say that?
Yeah, probably a lot of new people in here don't even know what that thing is, but
Well,
they were very popular
is
back then.
It's a motor generator. You put in 12 to 24 volts DC, and it's on a common armature, and it'll spin a high voltage DC generator that'll run anywhere from 250 volts for receivers to over 1,000 volts for the various military portable transmitters that they used during World War II. But that stuff, I remember the dynamotor was like $3 or something.
Oh yeah.
The stuff was cheap enough where it was within the allowance of me and my buddies that we get together and pool our allowances and pick up all this stuff and drag it home on the subway and hook it up, and there you go. A lot of fun.
So when now I'm jumping back to Radio New York International. Boy, we're really moving around here.
That's okay.
Did you think you would get as much publicity as you were going to get? I mean, you were on every network TV station. You were in the Boston Globe, the New York Times. I mean, all the radio and TV and news was carrying you guys.
When the radio ship got boarded and busted.
I'm
Radio
sorry?
New York International.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, there's tons of YouTube stuff.
Yeah. And let me just tell our viewers out there, hey, if you'll search for Radio New York International or even Alan Wiener, you'll see the videos. There's tons of videos on YouTube, actual news videos where they're flying the helicopter around your ship and moving in on you guys and the arrest and it's interesting. There's so much that was saved from that time because a lot of things have disappeared from back then. We didn't have YouTube back then.
No, it was basically all videotape.
Yeah.
But luckily, somebody put a lot of that stuff up on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ship hit the fan as we.
The ship hit it. Yeah. So okay, now so you towed the ship out, and when you bought the ship, you didn't care if the engine worked or not, right? You knew it
that
didn't
was
work.
one of the reasons why we got the ship really cheap. Because the main engine had a piston failure. I mean, it could have been reconditioned, but I figured we were going to be towed out and held there by a 10,000-pound anchor, so. I didn't really worry too much about it. The only thing that I wanted working in the engine room were the big diesels to run the generators, and they worked fine.
So this ship now, when you bought it, it didn't have an anchor. It was missing?
Yeah, its original anchor wasn't there, but it wouldn't have been adequate anyway. I had to buy a special, I bought a surplus Navy anchor, which was 10,000 pounds.
10,000-pound anchor. Now, I can just see you loading this in the back of a pickup truck. 10,000-pound anchor and taking it down there. I mean, how do you even? You had to pay somebody to put this on.
Move a 10,000-pound anchor with a crane.
Yeah. Oh man.
And it goes onto a barge, or in this case, it went on to a offshore supply ship, which is the ship that towed us down and positioned us and anchored us off the coast of Long Island back in the summer of 1987.
So after they busted you guys and put the bracelets on you and took you off the ship, and I guess they took your radio equipment. They didn't destroy it then, did they?
No, they didn't take it. They basically just cut it up.
Oh, just kind of cut it up where it wouldn't work, huh? Yeah. So my understanding.
We eventually repaired it all.
Oh yeah. My understanding is the Coast Guard didn't have enough power to get the anchor up. No. So they could tow the ship in. I guess they
left it where it was, and they returned the ship to us, I think, a week or two later.
Oh man, that was probably embarrassing.
Well, I guess they just didn't want to spend the money, to salvage the anchor. So they took care of the ship for us. It stayed out there for a couple of weeks. Then they returned it to us, and then I had the supply boat come down. Lift the anchor and bring the ship back to Boston.
Oh, that's cool. Now, so I guess did you use that ship any more after that for radio, or did you get rid of it?
We used it one more time. Let's see. We brought it out a year later. And we basically anchored it in the same spot. This got into like late September. of 88, 1988, if my memory serves me correct. We went back on the air, and not quite the same fanfare. We went back on the air, and then, because, we weren't violating anything, but this time the government took a different tack with us. They got a judge to issue a restraining order against us personally from broadcasting signals into the United States, which is kind of absurd when you think about it, because you can broadcast signals in the United States from another country.
Mm-hmm.
But this, again, is the litigious nature of the government. They can, worm these little things around. And we had legal representation, but I decided that I am not going to spend years and years and years in a litigious situation in court, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that I would rather, basically give up this idea and try a different tact. And that different tact was I decided to go for international shortwave. We tried the offshore thing, and it was pretty evident that no matter what we did, no matter what move on the chessboard we were going to make, we were going to be checked by the government, whether they do it legal or not. So I decided that the best course of action to do is to try to get a license for an international shortwave station. And I knew from the onset it would be very difficult to do it. It took a long time, but I remember initiating the proceeding. I spoke to my FCC attorney, and we began the long process of it. And it took a total of 13 years to get licensed for WBCQ. Because the government was, we had to go through hearings, and we had to go through this. The government determined for a while that I did not have the requisite character to be a licensee of the FCC. And it took a while, for that to go away. And finally, in, in December, it was December 22nd, a few days before Christmas of 1997, that my consultant, George Jacobs, a good guy, called me up and said, well, the FCC has granted your construction permit for your shortwave station in Maine, so don't screw it up. So there you go. That's the short story.
So, man, it took you 13 years to get that license.
13 years because, and it was interesting too. It was almost comical because we'd submit the paperwork and the FCC would come back, and in some of their rulings they'd say, well, we can't give a license to Captain Hook. I mean, it was in there. That's what they said, and. Thinking about it now, it's kind of humorous, but
so
finally,
did they actually call you Captain Hook, or kind of insinuate that?
Well, look, I'm just an American citizen exercising my constitutional rights to speak, and I just happen to use, the transmission of radio energy as my vehicle instead of a printing press or leaflets or something like that. So. It took a while, but finally, after a certain amount of time, my attorneys, brought up the fact that, you cannot deny Mr. Wiener a license forever because he's an American citizen and he has a right to use these frequencies. So that's one of the reasons why it took 13 years. And finally, they did. And ever since then, I will say, Tom, that ever since then, the FCC has been very cooperative. And the people at the international branch are a good group. And everything between WBCQ and the FCC has been good. And for 18 years now, going on 18 years, WBCQ, which is the lineal descendant of the pirate stations in my father's basement, of Radio New York International off, the coast of Long Island, New York. BCQ is the absolute descendant of that. And BCQ is living that dream. It is getting people on the air legally to broadcast and say and play whatever they want in a totally free speech atmosphere. And that's what we do, and we're very proud of it. And we love doing it. We love bringing different voices and different peoples to the air because, Tom, as you know, there's the internet. I know that. Which, there are billions of radio stations on the internet that hardly anyone listens to. But when you transmit over a real transmitter, and a lot of your ham radio folks know this also, when you transmit over a real transmitter that's putting a real signal through an antenna, that's broadcasting in real time, one transmitter to many, many unlimited ears and receivers, it's a big difference than the electronic stuff that goes over our internet and computer generated things.
So you're looking back,
I call it the radio effect.
Yeah, looking back at all the things you went through and all the years it took, and technology is changing. Radio is still there. I think you've said in the past that you wouldn't condone anyone to try to go back and repeat really what you've done. I mean, there are other ways for them to get the messages out, right?
I would not recommend that anyone take the law into their own. The world is a little bit different now. I mean, I think if we did what we did today with the gusto that we did it back then, we'd probably be arrested as terrorists under the Patriot Act. You have to be careful with stuff now. Things are a little bit more. I hate to say it, as a constitutionalist and one that really loves my constitutional republic, things, are not quite as free as they used to be. This is my opinion. Back when we were kids, playing around with radio transmitters in our parents' basement, and when I was a younger person, taking radio ships out into international territory. I wouldn't recommend it now. There are alternatives. BCQ is a perfect alternative. We get people on the air all the time. I mean, they lease time from us, very inexpensive, and they get out over the air. They cover, half the world, depending on propagation, and they get listeners from all over the world, and it's a good thing. So there are alternatives now. To putting radio ships out in international territory and pirating with transmitters in basements. And I do understand that there's a free radio community out there, and I understand it. I mean, I understand the excitement of putting a transmitter on the air and putting it on a medium wave frequency or a short wave frequency or an FM frequency, and broadcasting and transmitting and getting listeners and whatever. But the fines are steep. When they catch you now, they fine you. It's all about money. It's always about money. Always follow the money.
Yeah, I forwarded an email to you. Last month. A guy sent me an email. Said, hey, what's it take to put a shortwave station on? I can get me a ham transceiver and put the Mars frequency mod in it where I can get out of band, and then get me a little amplifier somewhere. And I'm thinking, well, this is really not the way to go, right? First of all, it's going to be illegal, and second of all, that equipment won't hold up very long in transmitting like the stuff that you put on was a real workhorse. I mean, military,
even a lot of the stuff that we modified through the years, of course the broadcast transmitters are designed for continuous duty.
Yeah.
Down, permanently in ham lingo. A lot of the military stuff that we would use for pirate stuff, it wasn't really designed to be on, that long at full power. So we had to provide cooling and ventilation, better ventilation for the tubes and stuff like that.
Here's a question from John KB2ERJ. He says, did you ever seek advice on establishing a commercial shortwave station with Joe Costello of WRNO worldwide?
Oh, I spoke with Joe. You know, I spoke with him a handful of times. Sure. When I was because obviously in 13 years, you know, I spoke with a lot of people in the shortwave business, and Joe was an interesting fellow. He had lots of opinions about it. One of his big concerns that he imparted to me is, you know, how does shortwave pay for itself? Because when Joe went on with RNO, which by the way, Joe Costello is no longer with us, God rest his soul. But when he put WRNO on the air in the early 80s, that was a breakthrough because the FCC at that time had kind of an embargo on private shortwave stations, where if you wanted a private shortwave station, they were reluctant to give a license. And Joe had WRNO, the Rock of New Orleans, an FM station, and he wanted to do shortwave. And the FCC was giving him trouble about it. And George Jacobs and some of his attorneys had to battle it out with the commission, and he broke the logjam. And he, his attorney said, well, you can't deny Joe a license because there's a shortwave service and it's in the rules. You know, you can apply for it. So Joe was kind of like the first of the new generation of shortwave stations that got on the air, and he did it a little differently. He played rock and roll music on shortwave, and he tried to get international business to advertise, you know, spot sales on his shortwave station, which I guess was, as he explained to me, was a hard thing to do and a hard sell because a lot of multinational and ad agencies they didn't know shortwave from the back of a book. I mean, they just didn't have a clue, and it was always an educational process. So how BCQ and many domestic private shortwave stations keep going is we lease time, and that's what I always wanted to do. I never thought that the spot sales, in other words, running a shortwave station like a regular AM or FM station, would work. You're just not going to find an advertising base, especially now, that will buy spot sales to keep you going. And we had the free speech radio template. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to put a shortwave station on the air that gave as many people as possible a voice to get on the air and say and play whatever they want. Totally free speech. We do not censor anyone on WBCQ, and it does make for some robust programs that probably should be listened after midnight. But that goes along with it. So, but yeah, Joe was a pioneer.
Yeah, here's something that was kind of new to me. I've had a FCC first class license for 35 years. Been a ham, been in radio for 54 years. And I didn't realize this, but many of these shortwave stations are AM stations. But and I talked to you briefly about this the other day. For instance, the station we're on tonight, WBCQ on 5130. It's running a compatible sideband. It's called, what do they call it? C-USB or C-LSB?
Yeah, well, it's compatible sideband is basically, it's single sideband with carrier. That's all. We just inject 25% carrier. So this way any radio can pick it up. You don't, because obviously if you do it without a carrier and you pick it up on an AM radio
Right.
We put the 25% carrier, everything in the upper sideband, and that's how we do it on.
So we're on a CLSB. It's compatible lower sideband.
No, upper.
Oh, upper CUSB. Okay.
CUSB. Yeah.
And so if you got a sideband receiver, you're going to tune it in fine, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's
Put
cool.
enough carrier out there so any AM radio can pick up 5130.
Yeah, and that also helps you with power consumption at the station.
Yeah.
It keeps the power level down.
As every ham knows, single sideband is a way to get a lot more bang for the less carrier buck.
Yeah.
So, because the carrier isn't on that much, and there's not that much of it, burning up those precious kilowatts. And when you start getting into the 50,000 watt level, everything goes up astronomically.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Here's a picture of I guess this is kind of coverage of one of your transmitters. I'm not sure which one, but you're
we're in northern Maine, and we obviously point towards Mexico, and of course the United States is in the way, so we cover most of North America.
so there's in the license you have to point at a distant foreign country, right?
Yes, an international station has to have a target country, and our target country is Mexico. And
Okay.
that's in the rules because we are an international station.
All right, that's cool. Let me see if there's some other pictures here real quick. Oh well, let's see. What is this a current transmitter you have?
Yeah, that's the 5110. That's the 5130 transmitter. I got to get used to 5130.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
you
Lowell
were
Collins.
you were an awful nice guy last month to let the military have 5110 and you move up to 5130.
Well, military comes first. That's all I have to say. And again, this is another thing with the FCC. They called us and they said that we need to move, and we worked it out. And everybody was great, and everybody was cooperative, and that's the way it should be.
And these transmitters, these shortwave transmitters, are probably what 75% mechanical. I think aren't there a lot of gears and motors?
They're all electromechanical. They're all electromechanical. That's a Collins transmitter. That's known as the FRT-22. There were only, I think, 30 or 40 of them ever made, and they are, Collins, as many of you listeners might know, made beautiful commercial equipment.
Oh yeah.
As well as consumer stuff and hand gear. But that particular transmitter, the photo that you have up now, that transmitter is built like a fine watch. They spared no expense. I mean, a lot of the duct work and cavity work for the RF power amps use these heavy aluminum castings, which cost a fortune to make. And it's a beautifully constructed transmitter, and that particular transmitter was built around the time that I was born, in around 1952, 1953. So that transmitter is 62 or 63 years old, and it's still, well, if you're listening to it tonight, it's still running well.
Oh yeah. Now, since these are mostly mechanical, I guess tuning. What kind of tuning range do you have on that? Can you go from 4 megs up to 17 megs, or?
Yeah, that transmitter. Let's see. The Collins, I think, is 4 to 30. I believe it goes all the way up to 30 megs.
So it was not a big deal for you to tune that up on from 5110 to 5130.
Oh no, not a problem at all. I mean, well, that's so close. I mean, we virtually needed no.
So does that also when you tune the finals and all that? Does it also have some type of antenna tuning built into the transmitter?
Yeah, well, the transmitter has plate. It has plate tuning, plate loading, plate coupling, and I think there's a general reactance trim for the balanced line, because we use balanced line at those power levels. Yeah.
So let's see. There's people might be asking about your antennas. What all different type of antennas do you have out there?
Well, that's a dipole curtain right there. That one is operating on 9330 now. And we built that ourselves. Well, Timtron built that with help from Tom, our operations engineer at the station. And that's currently on the 9330 frequency. Yeah, that's another view of it. Yeah, that antenna works very well.
Yeah. And on 7490, I think you're using a Yagi?
Yeah, we used the log periodic beam.
Oh, the log periodic, okay.
That antenna we did not build. That antenna was built by a really delightful high-frequency engineer who unfortunately is no longer with us,
Uh-huh.
a fellow by the name of Al Soma. And he custom built that antenna for us. And that antenna, which is on 7490 now, is an outstanding antenna. I mean, that antenna has, for 18 years, just operated flawlessly. We had to replace the transmission lines, I think, once, because they kind of burned up with all the power going
Yeah.
into it.
Now here's an RCA transmitter. Are you still using this one?
Okay, that's for my AM station on 780.
Oh, okay.
And that transmitter's online. That is, it's been converted. It's using more modern tubes. That is a BTA 5F, and that's an old RCA transmitter. That you have up now. You did.
Yeah, I did. Right there.
You're going so fast.
I know it. I know. I don't know what I'm looking at here. What is that?
All right, that is that's a museum piece. That's a Western Electric 1930 grid modulated AM broadcast transmitter. It's not, it's hooked up. It does operate, but we're not using it for anything. That uses a pair of 212 triodes in push-pull Class B grid modulated service.
My first AM transmitter was grid modulated, and I built up a plate modulator and put on it.
Right.
Let's see what we got. There's some of your antennas.
Yeah. You can see the egg beater, the beam, to the kind of center right, and then the dipole curtain on the left. And those are some of the buildings there. Those are some of the transmitter buildings, storage facilities. There's a wind turbine tower to the right. That's one of our wind turbines, which unfortunately is offline. That turbine can produce about 30,000 watts.
Is that right?
And when it runs, it really helps keep the electric bill down in the transmitter building.
Is that something you built out of surplus?
We got the turbine. That came from a wind farm in the Midwest.
Oh, okay.
And I did buy that turbine surplus. Unfortunately, it's down. It needs to be rewired. Wind turbines are great, but they require quite a bit of maintenance.
All right. Hey, Alan, have you got time to stick around a few more minutes?
Sure, I do.
Let's see if we can open the phone line and see what kind of people we have out there with us tonight. If I can put the phone number up here. There we go. So I'm gonna open the phone lines up, and you guys have to pardon me. I had a cold all week, and I was doing pretty good the first hour. But
by the way, Tom, you should probably enunciate the phone number.
Yeah, thank you. I'll do that. I don't have a Robert here to control things like you do, so I'm preoccupied with all kinds of stuff. There we go.
I'm sure that you could use another set of hands.
Yeah. Okay, everybody out there, let's call in and let's see if we get any shortwave listeners out there tonight. You can dial 901-286-1116, 901-286-1116. Please give us a call, and let's see what anybody has to say tonight. Man, it's been so interesting talking about all this again, Alan. Wow. I mean, I could talk to you for days on this.
Well, I mean, pirate radio was an interesting part of my life, but the majority of my life has been spent in the commercial broadcasting sector. I don't think we mentioned much about when I built, the AM and FM radio stations up in northern Maine. And when I basically put myself through college and built my college a radio and television station. Oh, lots of stories there. That was a lot of fun. That was another character building experience.
Yeah.
I've been dabbling in radio all my life, and I love it. I still love it. It's
All right,
kind
I
of,
think we've got somebody on the phone here. Who's on the phone?
Hi, this is Dr. Becker.
All right, hold on one second. Let me get you a little bit more volume here. Who we got, Doctor?
Yeah, this is Dr. Scott Becker.
Oh, it's my buddy Dr. Becker.
Dr. Becker.
Hey. Hey, Alan, how are you?
How are you, Scotzo? Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, it's good to hear your voice, too. I'm just wondering where you got that crazy shirt. It looks good on you.
Well, you know,
Actually,
he is down in
this was a
Florida.
present. This shirt was a present from my girlfriend, Pam. So, honestly true.
Tammy has good taste. There's no question about that.
Yes. As you would say, it's a bit foo-foo. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Becker and Tom, this guy you should have him on your show.
All right.
Dr. Becker is responsible for a lot in the shortwave world. Two things he's responsible for, just two that I can recall, and that is number one, for getting Bill Cooper with the Hour of the Time on international shortwave, and many of our listeners might remember Bill. And second, and Scott, people might blame you for this, but you also got brother Ralph Stair on international shortwave, and you were one of the first people to actually do a lot of alternative broadcasting on the satellite. So, Tom, we have a very distinguished caller here that has accomplished an incredible amount in the free radio and free media area.
So
Yeah,
I'm assuming that...
Of course you're going to put Ralphie in there, but Art Bell I was responsible for.
Right, and also Art Bell. That's right. You had a lot to do with the Art Bell show and the Art Bell program.
So I'm assuming that Dr. Becker here was just listening on 5130. You're not a ham, are you, Dr. Becker?
I'm an ex-ham.
An ex-ham? Okay.
My call sign was Kilowatt Bravo 5, mentally deranged hippie.
Mentally deranged. Okay, very good. 5 calls. So where are you located?
I'm in Kansas right now.
Okay.
I'm in Kansas right now, and then I didn't have a lot to do with the first ship, but Al and I built the second and third ships that went out.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, we'll have to talk offline here and see about having you on here one night.
No, I think the better person to have on the air would be Tim Trononium. I think you would have a lot of fun with him, especially the technical stuff and everything else. But I just wanted to call in and say hi to you, Tom. And I've watched a lot of your programs, and you do a really good stand-up job for the ham radio community and the shortwave community now. And I'm glad to have you on board on WBCQ. And Al and I will talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, please call me, Scotzo.
I'll do it, big guy. All right. See you later, Tom. See
All
you
right,
Have
thanks.
a good show.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, Tom, Scotzo, Dr. Becker reminds me that, the offshore radio, I know we're running out of time, but the offshore radio situation, there was a part 2 and a part 3, as you know, because we tried it again using a different ship and under a different name, Voyager Broadcast Services, and then we did it a third time in the 1990s using a smaller vessel. And there's a lot of stories.
So Alan, I mean, oh man, it's just getting interesting again. Hey, we got another call coming in, but let me ask you: the second and third time, did that have anything to do with this smallest country in the world? I forget the name of it.
Oh, yeah, the Principality of Sealand.
Sealand. Did that have anything to do with Sealand?
Actually, not the second and third. We were trying to, at one time when we brought the first ship out, Radio New York International and Sarah, we changed registry of the ship to the Principality of Sealand. We registered the ship with Sealand. Yes, we do.
All right. Now, for all of our viewers that missed it last time, your first ship was registered under the flag of Honduras, and you kind of got in a little trouble and all that, but you got out of it. So then you tried it again, and you registered your ship under a new country called Sealand.
Correct.
That
Which is still there.
The entire country is about 30,000 square feet. I mean,
that's correct.
It's not very big.
It's
I mean,
they had their own army fort.
They had their own postage stamps, their own mail, their own money. We could get into a whole thing about it.
Very interesting.
A coup where they attacked this place by helicopter and guns and all. Gee, so man, Alan, you've really been involved in some, I'll say, some quite interesting things here.
Well, unless you try, how do you know?
That's true. Who we have on the phone?
Hey, hi, Tom. This is Ham Radio Rick, N1HID.
Okay, hey Rick.
Alan, did you
Yes.
get Mr. King involved in radio?
Did I get who?
Mr. King involved in radio
Mr.
with his station up on Katahdin.
Mr. King?
Stephen King.
Oh, with Stephen King? No. Stephen
Okay,
King
I thought I heard a rumor about that.
No, he was never involved with any of our radio exploits.
Okay. All right, that's my question. Thank you, Tom.
All right, thank you. Okay, oh man, we're getting into some new stuff here. Now, there's a question in the chat room. They want to know if you, did you ever have Howard Stern on your radio shows? But I think it went the other way. Weren't you on Howard's show?
Yeah, I was interviewed on Howard Stern, after, what was it, in the early 90s, we were on the Howard Stern show, myself and Randy Steele. We were talking about, Howard interviewed me and interviewed Randy about, getting back on shortwave, about bringing another ship out, and it was a lot of fun. I remember that. That was in the early 1990s on the Howard Stern show. Somewhere the video of that exists. I haven't seen it.
I'm going to have to find it. I looked for it, but I haven't been able to find it. If you find it, I'd like a link to it.
No, okay.
So, wow. Okay, there's a person in the chat room, first-time listener. I don't know if he's listening on shortwave. Okay. It's one of my friend's sons that's tuned in here. Okay. Let me just say, if you're listening on shortwave on WBCQ right now, you can also watch us on W5KUB.com. Go to W5KUB.com, and you can see Alan there. And I think, Alan, you're in Studio 6 tonight, right?
I'm in studio number 9.
Oh, Studio 9,
right
okay.
In Great Land of Flaw, amidst all this old ancient junk. Yes.
All right. Well, I named my studio here Studio 6 after learning from you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right.
I don't really know if this is exactly studio number 9, but it sounds good. If the Beatles can do it, I can do it. So this is studio number 9 from the Land of Flaw. Yes, Flawland.
All right. The phone number is 901-286-1116. Any more interesting questions? Give us a call. Because man, it's 10:15 down in Florida. Alan's probably got to go to bed here in a few minutes.
No, I don't hit the sack till later.
Okay.
Us radio people, we stay up late. But Tom, I'm still doing it. We're still doing the shortwave thing and still running AM and FM. And I'll tell you, I love radio. By God's good grace, we're doing having a lot of fun. And broadcasting, to me, is still as exciting as it ever was when I was a kid watching those specials on TV and getting all excited about the wonderful world of radio broadcasting and radio stations. And it's a real nice thing to do. It's my hobby, and it's my line of work. And the old adage, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Well, that's true. And I kind of feel the same way here. Hobbies radio, and now, Alan, you've got a show every Friday night on 7490 WBCQ, Alan Wiener International. You've had that on.
Alan Wiener Worldwide.
Oh, Alan, what? I think I said that last time. I messed that up. Worldwide.
Alan Wiener, we're Friday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern on 7490 and 5130. We also stream on the net. Ustream. You can see the studio feed. And
so how many years have you been doing that show?
Going on 18.
About 18 years now. Cool.
Yeah, 18.
And
we just talk about
Yeah, you cover just about any. You cover just about anything, right?
Yeah. A lot with the radio bent, and I tell stories like a lot of the stories I've been talking with you tonight.
Yeah.
I talk about because it's a lot of fun. It's interesting, Tom. When you asked earlier about how did my father feel about all the stuff that I was doing. He was an attorney in Yonkers. A good one too. He was a good guy. My dad was a good man, and how did he feel about his son basically running pirate radio stations out of the basement of his house? And I remember years later, when I finally got the shortwave stations on the air, and he was very proud. I remember the day I called him up. I was at his apartment when I got the phone call from my consultant that the commission had granted the license, the construction permit to build WBCQ. Wow. And he was like the first person to know about it. And I told him, and he broke down crying. and I can maybe count on one hand the times that I ever saw my dad weep. Yeah. And later on, a year or so later, we were talking one day, and he looked at me and he said, son, you did a lot of crazy things in your life. I know you did stuff and you broke the law and you did all this stuff and you put pirate ships out there and you did all this stuff. And he looked at me and he says, but at least you tried to do something. Mm-hmm. And I really, I looked at him and I said, you're right, that's what I tried to do. I made mistakes, as we all do, but you got to try. I mean, even if you fail, you got to try to get things done, and that's what I've always tried to do. I mean, granted, it might have been the plan A or the best choice, but it's important. If you got a dream, try it. Try it. You might fail. You might fail multiple times. But if you don't try, you will get nowhere. You will accomplish nothing. And if you have a fear of failure, don't let that debilitate you, because failure is a part of the learning process. And that's how we grow. I mean, because there's no perfection in the world except in our Lord and Savior, and that's it. So we're all going to make mistakes, and we're all going to screw up, and we learn from it, and we move on. And I don't care if it's radio or our hobbies or our passions or our work. Do the best you can, and carry on. Carry on.
Well, Alan, you're a radio engineer. You've got all the background, the skills, the experience. You can tear stuff apart. You can build it. You know how it operates.
Yeah.
Questions.
I try to. I hope my back holds out. That's
questions. Questions here is, why haven't you got your ham license? It just sounds like you're too busy. I don't know. You don't even have to learn the code anymore. I mean,
I know.
I need to send you a little study guide, and probably in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, we could probably have your license.
A lot of my friends do ham radio. Ham radio is a fantastic art. It's really responsible for the modern system of radio that we have, because all the great inventors, all the great pioneers, from David Sarnoff to Edward Armstrong, were all hams. And it's that experimental spirit that was handed down, and all the experimental stuff that hams did most hams, from reading amateur radio. I love radio history, and I've read quite a bit of history, not only of broadcasting, but of ham radio. And, the early ham radio operators were really something. I mean, they made everything. I mean, they made their own tubes. They made their own rectifiers. They made their own filter capacitors. They made their own transformers. I mean, they made everything. There was very little store-bought stuff in the early days, and even the store-bought stuff could really be afforded by a very small percentage of people. And it's that spirit that keeps the art going, and of course a lot of the old hymns. I don't know. I don't like to take tests. I guess that's it. I don't know why. I guess I never really had the burning interest to kind of sit down and do the point-to-point stuff. I love broadcasting. There is such even now, I'm sitting here talking with you over the marvels of Skype and computer connectivity, but I know that my voice is going into this old vacuum tube transmitter up in northern Maine, and modulating all these triodes in parallel, lots of them in parallel, to put out a big fat signal on 5130. And there's just such an excitement. I love the art of broadcasting. I really do. I love it.
Well, you wouldn't even have to buy any radio gear. I'm looking behind you in the window, and I see a Heathkit amplifier back there.
Yeah. I know. I've got transmitting stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
We've got backup transmitters up the yin yang up in BCQ land, and I've got backup transmitters here. Tom, we're preparing for the apocalypse. Do you know that we're even going to have a backup transmitter at BCQ that's powered by a steam engine?
Really?
The steam engine was, we set the foundation for it. It's a small engine. We set the foundation for it last fall, and hopefully my mechanical engineer, John, will get that thing running this summer. And we're going to have a special transmitter with a special power supply that'll run off the steam engine. So when the revolution comes, we'll be ready.
Hey, there was one more thing I wanted to ask you about. I got a picture here if I can bring it up real quick. Oh, there it is. It's an observatory here. Now this is at your station, right?
That's
and my friend here, Freddie, is what do you call yourself, Freddie? An astronomer. I can't even pronounce it.
An amateur astronomer.
There you go. And look at this. Nice. Now look at this. Now you talk about illegal. Now I guess you couldn't just shine it up at an airplane, could you?
Well, okay. There's a story behind this. This is some of the crazy stuff that we have done, that I have done in my life. This is not really radio related, but in some ways it is, because it's light transmission, so it is electromagnetic radiation. I got contacted a number of years ago by a company that wanted us to build a laser transmitter that is very, very powerful, that can send signals into outer space, because they wanted to sell, like the International Star Registry, you can name a star for somebody and get a piece of paper for it. Well, they were a similar company, and they wanted to sell a service where you could send a message into outer space. So they contacted us to do this, and I looked into it, and I said, well, probably the best way to do it is with microwaves. But unfortunately, getting licensed for microwaves would be virtually impossible. So, we thought about the idea of modulating lasers, because lasers are in the light band, and light is unregulated. So, anybody can beam a high-powered laser up into the atmosphere. So we built in that observatory is a huge astronomical telescope that we reversed. In other words, instead of taking light in, it concentrates light in its big mirror and beams it out. We have a liquid-cooled, high-powered argon laser. Wow. And that's just a picture of some of the tests we were doing. Unfortunately, the project fell through and nothing ever came from it. I lost a bunch of money out of that. There's one of those learning curve experiences. But it was a lot of fun, though. It was a technological challenge. We built the laser system. We built a modulator for the laser, and we were trying to decide how to code the laser so it would give out binary or different types of packets of information that if some alien race or whatever detected it, they could decipher it. So it's kind of
so you did transmit some data on that beam right there, right?
Pardon me?
You did transmit some data on that beam.
I don't remember if the laser was being modulated at that. Yeah, we probably had the modulator going.
Because I'm sure it's still going somewhere, right? It's out there somewhere.
Oh yeah, technically all electromagnetic radiation, unless it's absorbed or converted into heat. When you beam it into space, it technically goes.
Alan. It's going to be very interesting times. It may be 20 years from now, it may be 1,000 years from now, but you know how the solar system and everything's just moving around in space, right? What's going to happen when we cross back in a path of all these radio signals that we're transmitting today? We're going to hear all that again.
I don't think we'll see that in our lifetime.
Things
move.
Space is pretty big.
The universe is always moving.
Yeah.
But it's in huge times. The sky pretty much looks the way it did maybe a million years ago. You really got to go, 20, 30, 40 million years, and then, star positions start changing. The human lifetime is, in the grand scheme of, the 14 or so billion years lifespan of this observable universe, is a very, very, it's not even the blink of an eye. It's more like a microsecond pulse, the average lifespan of a human being. So it's amazing what we can get accomplished when we want to in that little brief milli or microsecond.
Yeah, there's a question. Do you remember what the power level was of your laser?
It was several watts.
Yeah.
That the observatory has been locked up for the last 10 years. I haven't been in there. But it was an argon liquid cooled laser bought at great expense. They're a lot cheaper now. Now you have solid state lasers that put out much more power for great short money. But back then, the only thing we could buy was I think the laser is like 10 watts. And by the way, to generate 10 watts with a laser, you got to put thousands of watts in. Talk about inefficiency.
Oh, wow.
That's why the thing was it was water. Yeah, it was water cooled, and the cooling unit was bigger than the laser. When you get into high-powered laser stuff, it's a whole different world. But it's electromagnetic radiation, and a laser tube or crystal is a resonator. It's almost it's a resonator. It really is light amplification.
Mm-hmm.
By resonating packets of photons in a gas or a solid. It's cool stuff. Lasers are cool stuff.
Well, hey, in that same area there, let me ask you something. Are you experimenting with, or are you still doing this? You guys were trying some digital experimenting, sending digital messages on your carrier, maybe where people could use FL Digi or something to decode it.
We were doing some stuff with that a little bit, doing some digital coding. We'd like to do a little bit more digital transmission. It's unfortunately the license, like DRM, Digital Radio Mondiale. We'd like to try that. We have, a lot of our transmitters, the sideband ones are linear, so we have the bandwidth, and we'd like to try it. We haven't done it because of a few reasons. First, the licensing and the software is expensive, and the demand for it really hasn't been there, but we would like to try it in the future. So we probably will be experimenting with some digital transmission systems especially on our 9330 frequency in the future.
All right, Alan, we've been on here about an hour and a half tonight. I don't want to wear you out. It's been exciting talking to you here. We'll have to do it again sometime. And I mean, you are so versed in everything. I mean, there's so much about technology that I'd love to get into and talk with you about.
Well, there's a lot I don't know. I mean, I'm constantly learning, and nowadays, well, you know, like Tom, I'm from the zinc-plated vacuum tube culture days.
Yeah.
What I have seen in technology, if you know, compared to what I mean, I grew up with vacuum tubes, and compared to that, what's going on now is magic. Like what we're doing now, it's all magic. It's just wonderful, and it brings people together, and that's what I've always tried to do with WBCQ. It's why I did pirate radio out of my dad's basement. It's why Scott and I and everybody did Dr. Becker and I did the pirate radio ships, and why we did everything, and why we've got BCQ on the air. It's all about communication. Because when people are talking and people are communicating with each other, they're not fighting with each other. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it is. Alan, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Go get you a Diet Coke, or you drink Diet Coke or regular Coke?
Diet? No.
No?
No. I
Let's wait. We got extended show.
I'm 6'4".
I've got an extended show. Just a couple more minutes. Are you one of these people that are against diet, that the artificial sugar causes cancer or something like that?
Oh God. Oh yeah. I mean, I have read so much about the artificial sweeteners. One of the things that they've discovered about artificial sweeteners is artificial sweeteners actually can trigger the cellular structure in your body to accumulate more fat. So, you know, people that drink copious amounts of artificial sweetened drinks might not be, reaping the benefits that they think that they're supposed to get under the term of diet. So it's all chemicals, and you want to stay away from that.
I know they test this stuff on mice, and I know that artificial sweetening is pretty bad. I understand they gave a mouse like 40 pounds of that sweetener and it killed him.
Oh, only 40 pounds? Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I don't drink Diet Coke. I mean, I do drink a little soda. I'm a Coca-Cola guy,
All right. Hey, now.
Maybe one glass of it.
Now, you're originally from Yonkers or New York or that area. So, do you call it a Coke, or do you call it pop?
Okay, if you get more into the Chicago Midwestern area, you'll call it pop.
Yeah.
I grew up knowing it as soda.
Soda. Okay, you're a soda guy. Well, see, to me, everything's a Coke. Everything's a Coke. A Pepsi's a Coke. A Coke's a Coke. So I guess we're a diversified country here. We've got pop and soda and Coke, but it all means the same thing.
It all means the same thing. The greatness of this country.
Alan, thanks very much. I'm going to go ahead and sign off with you, and we're going to have you back on again soon. You're an interesting guy.
God bless you and your viewers and audience, and everybody be well.
All right. Hey, and Alan, this show is also recorded. It's on our YouTube channel, or if you go to w5kub.com, it'll be under our archives, so you can go back and watch it. I'll have to go back and watch it to see what I said tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
right. We'll see you later. Thanks a lot for great discussion.
All right. Good night.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Well, that was Alan Weiner, the owner of the radio station we're on tonight, WBCQ, and other radio stations. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. It's 9:38. Tell you what I'll do. I'm gonna open up Hangout. I'm just gonna turn Hangout on. If you want to get in Hangout, try it. Let's see if anybody's there. More than likely, it's so late that everybody's already gone. But here's the Hangout address. I'm gonna put it in the chat room for you. There we go. So, guys, try to give us a call and hang out and get on the show, and we'll maybe spend 5 or 10 more minutes. So let me go over to Hangout and see if anybody is here. If I can just find the right mouse. Who's that? Yeah, I saw. I saw he had to leave. So let me bring Hangout up real quick. Hangout. Well, I think William's there. Hey, William.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. Let me get you on here. There we go. You're the only one in here, man. But you're out west there. You're in what, Montana, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. Hey, I was reading the chat room a while ago. You having trouble with your wireless connection out in the garage?
Oh, yeah. It's always cutting in and out. I just moved the Ethernet downstairs, so I just need to run a Cat 5 out here, and then I'll be all hooked up.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the show tonight? Was it? Oh, hey, look, we've got Doc in here. Doc's joining us.
Yeah, Doc's joining us. Yeah, great show. Always enjoy seeing Alan on here. Second time he's been on here, and it was great.
Let me see if I can get. Hey, Doc. Oh, okay, Doc, you got your cigar going, and let's see, William out there. He's got his cigar going. Who else? We got somebody new in here, I think. Who is this right here? Who we got there? The guy that's got white hair like me. Who is that? Okay. Well, he's he left us. He left us. Okay. Well,
he's just trying it out.
It's the first time I think he's been on here with us. So,
I think his call sign ended. It was like an 8 MGD or something like that.
And my names are not today. They were last week, but today the names are not on the little picture squares down here. Why does it alternate every week?
Depends if you get the legacy version pop up every once in a while.
Yeah. So let's see. Jill says, I'm not going in tonight. Maybe next week. Catch you on the flip side. All right. So
William, did you work Hurt Island?
No, didn't get to work on. I heard him a couple times on 3 meters, but never good enough to get a good clean decode on him, or make him out to an intelligible signal to hear my call sign come back.
I worked him twice, once on CW and once on RTTY.
I worked him once on
both on 30 meters.
I worked him once on 30 meter CW. I went in last night. I was going to try to pick him up one more time on maybe on 40 meter CW or something, but it looks like they shut down early. I don't know. So let's see who we got on here. Who's that joined us there? Just put. Oh, is it? Hey, that's Walter's son there. What's his name? Walter. That's Walter. You're Walter. Walter the Fourth. Hey, hello, Walter the Fourth. How you doing? Hello, Walter the Fourth. I guess he's not.
What's up, Walter?
How you doing?
Well,
all right.
Doc can hear you, but he can't hear me. Oh, hey, Doc, while I got you on here, I've had this terrible cold, man, for about 4 days now. And
I diagnosed that when you came on the air.
Man, let me tell you, after about an hour, I was just about to lose my voice tonight. How you going to fix me up?
Hot lemonade.
Okay. Oh, man. I'm thinking I'm a little bit better, but I don't know. So Walter,
maybe with a little Jack Daniels in it or something. So
there you go.
I don't drink myself, but I travel.
You could pretend.
Well, look, hey, I traveled my job a lot. Like Puerto Rican places, and they were always giving me bottles of rum and stuff to bring back. And I was so sick one time. I heard if you drink half a bottle or something of rum here, it'll cure you. So anyway. Well, I'll tell you, that's the nastiest tasting stuff I ever tasted. But I took a little bit of it, and it did not cure me.
Moderation, my friend.
Yeah. So, Walter.
Yes, sir.
Walter, have you done your homework?
Actually, I have. Believe it or not.
Okay. Where's Walter? Is he down at your house?
No, he's at college.
Oh, at college. Where is he?
He's in northeast Mississippi.
Oh, okay. Down in Booneville, Mississippi. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Very good. So did you watch the show any tonight?
I caught about the last 15, 20 minutes of it.
Alan's a really intelligent guy that he can talk about just about anything, you know?
It sounds like it.
I asked a question in the chat room, but you didn't ask it. What's his educational background?
I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Kathy's in the chat room. She wants to know if she needs to come home and take care of me. Kathy's over at our North Carolina house this week. Hopefully I wasn't too bad on the show tonight.
I was over in the North Carolina mountains on Saturday.
Well, she's going to be over there, I guess, for about
little hiking around Bryson City over there.
She's got a friend with her, and they're over there sewing at our home over in North Carolina, and in about a week they're heading to Paducah, and you know, for them, Paducah has a thing every year like the Dayton Hamvention. It's a big sewing thing up in Paducah. So they're going from North Carolina to Paducah here next week.
Around Bryson City over there.
She's got a friend with her, and they're over there sewing at our home over in North Carolina, and in about a week they're heading to Paducah, and you know, for them, Paducah has a thing every year like the Dayton Hamvention. It's a big sewing thing up in Paducah. So they're going from North Carolina to Paducah here next week. Okay. Hey, she's got a friend with her. How do I do this? The gentleman that just called in. I don't know you. You need to mute your mic if you can. And for them, Paducah has a thing every year.
You're gonna have to mute the podcast there.
I can't mute him. I don't have the option to mute him. Wait a minute. Let me see. How do I do this? I have no control over him. I don't know you. You need to mute your mic if you can. Can anyone mute him? There we go. I couldn't mute him. I guess they changed versions on me. I don't even have the option to mute people anymore.
Yeah, that's probably a legacy item as well.
Do you guys? If you put your mouse over the picture, can you mute? Do you still have that function?
No.
You know, used to you could mute a person, but I don't have it anymore. Kathy. Kathy says
might only be in the legacy version.
Kathy's correcting me. She said it's not a sewing thing; it's a quilting. It's a quilting thing. So
that's completely different.
That's probably.
Don't you know the difference, Tom? Good grief.
Well, it's probably like CB and ham radio, right? You know, probably like CB and ham radio. There is a big difference. Oh man, yeah. Whoever that person that called in, that's the first time I've seen him, and he just doesn't know he's causing feedback. It was coming from him because I could see the little lights on him, you know, when we were talking.
Yeah. The podcast kind of looping back through.
Yeah. So let's see. It's 10 minutes till 11 in North Carolina. Kathy, y'all better go to bed. Don't stay up late tonight. Over there.
Hey, William, did you work FT4JA?
No, didn't work them either.
they had a good signal. They had some good signals on several bands. That seemed like it was pretty well organized.
Oh, hey Walter.
I listened around for them, but I just didn't find them. I think the best opportunities was in the morning, and I was working or busy on the weekend, so I really didn't get an opportunity till the evening time. And I only heard VK0EK on the evenings on 30 meters.
All right, kind of bring it in. Throw me a little water in this way.
There you go.
Give me a swig here.
Nice.
Now, watch this.
Tom
Watch
and
this. Look at that. But you guys can't do that, can you?
We're not as cool as you, Tom.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's too good.
I got to get me some more props here. I had a pencil on there, but it was too small, so we went to a water bottle. Let's see. Where are you guys? There, I got you back on here now. Well, I didn't try to work that other DXpedition. I know they've been on, but I'm not much of a. I don't chase them a lot. I did want to try to work Hurt Island since we had them on the webcast. And did y'all see the cartoon that? Let's see. Did y'all see the cartoon that the Hurt Island people made up? Let me get it.
I saw it.
Let me find it here for the guys out on the webcast.
There were a couple of them.
Oh, are they? Let's see. There
was one with a bunch of people in a line. Yeah, there's it.
Yeah,
you're in the front. You're in the front of the line, and then, of course, there was the one that you had on your website on the Facebook.
Yeah. I'm in the front of the line, and I was real honored to have the Hurt Island comic drawer or whatever he's called to do that. And they sell a coffee cup with that on it, but I looked at the coffee cup and there's no call letters on the penguins' heads on the coffee cup.
Oh, yeah, they got a few people on there, pretty recognizable calls. Got Katie from
Katie
was
the second one on there.
Yeah.
Valerie back there next to the last.
Was she?
Yeah.
NB9L.
Yeah, I think Valerie worked them on every band. A million watts and stacked 20 element beams and
Yeah.
Oh man.
It helps to have a husband who's in the cellular phone business, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Cellular tower business.
Oh, let's see what's going on in the chat room.
Just a little station there.
I'm only about 10 countries away from being on the DX honor roll, so I'm trying to get there. So.
All right. Oh man, I've never even sent anything in. Hello, Mike. How you doing?
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Hello.
Mike, you look like you're looking through a keyhole or something. What's going on?
Like you're down the barrel there or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. I've got to realign.
Yeah, you don't want to point that thing.
I'm getting claustrophobic.
Where am I doing making go here?
Let me out. Let me out.
Hang on. All right.
There we go.
Yeah, I had problems. I was trying to get in on my computer, and every time I went to it, I just wound up with a blank screen. It wouldn't let me get in, so I had to go to the my mini iPad here.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's definitely working.
Well, you look bigger than life right now, so.
Well, I see Jerry's not in here tonight.
Yeah, he was on the chat room for sure.
Yeah, I saw him on the chat room.
Okay, well, maybe he'll be in here in a minute.
Yeah, I saw Jerry had signed out that he couldn't stay in. Or not Jerry.
Oh, that was Jeff.
Oh, Jeff, yeah, he's been cutting out early.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he turns into a pumpkin or something close to 11 there out of Jersey.
Having the moonlight to pay for that flex radio.
Yeah, exactly. Second job.
Yeah.
So, I watched the chat room as much as I could tonight. I didn't really see any negative comments in here. Did anybody see anything that looked like
no, sir.
People were a little unhappy?
No. Everything was positive.
It was interesting. It wasn't ham radio, but it was still interesting.
I was waiting to see because I was on QRZ earlier this morning and I saw where it was posted about this tonight, and I clicked on some of the comments, and there were a couple of guys that were really against the whole show. And
Well, you know, there was one I saw.
I thought some of this was going to come out tonight, but none of it did.
Well, I saw one guy. He says, "Why would anybody want to watch this?" And I said, "Well, we're going to talk about antennas and log periodics and dipoles and radio propagation and military surface equipment and radio stations and FCC rules and, you know, all kinds of stuff." I thought it might be interesting, so I put that on there. And there's probably, I need to go back and look. There's probably are some other comments. There was one guy got on here last time, and he said that you know, he worked his butt off to get his license, and we shouldn't have stuff like that on. Well, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I got my license. I got my license when I was 16 years old. I don't remember working my butt off. I was 16 years old and I got my license.
Yeah, I look at it as history.
Yeah,
it's kind of a history of what's going on. One guy put on there, well, would you put on there about, you know, this is illegal stuff, and he's a pirate, he's illegal, and why are they putting this illegal stuff on and talking about it? And you might as well be talking about killers and murderers on TV. You know,
oh man, I'm gonna have to go.
I'll have to go. Come back and said, "Well, you ever watch Dateline or 60 Minutes? What are they talking about?"
I'll have to go back and read some of those comments. Well, you know, Alan was very, he talked very nice about ham radio operators and how everything that all the radios that and stations that have come along over the years were basically created by ham radio operators. You know.
Well, he's obviously a very smart guy. You know, he sounds like he's a little bit contrite about some of the things that he's done, but you know, we all should be, I guess. But you know, it was interesting. I found it interesting that even if it wasn't about ham radio directly.
Yeah. Here, scoot up over here. Scoot over this way. Here's your mic. Get a mic here. I got my Airbus pilot with me tonight. Yeah, well, I got my Airbus pilot here. Put that mic on there.
Walter
for you.
Yeah, we got Walter. We got Walter.
We're in trouble now.
All right.
Let me see if I can.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, how are you? You ready for tomorrow?
Oh, that's right.
Nope.
Let's see. There we go. There's Walter. There's Walter right there.
What time are the games tomorrow?
I think 4 and 7.
Okay, I'll be there.
You gonna be where?
Scuba, Mississippi.
Tomorrow afternoon?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll make it. Because our show's just getting started right now.
We're just getting warmed up.
Yeah, we're just getting warmed up. We're gonna talk about landing an Airbus here in a minute with
sideways with a crosswind going into.
We're gonna talk about landing an Airbus with the left gear didn't go down.
That's right. We don't want to do that.
Hey Tom, did you happen to see any of the Facebook videos from the Dallas area last night when they had that hailstorm?
No, I didn't. I'll have to.
Oh my gosh! I'll see if I can.
Well, I don't know. I saw one picture on Facebook or Twitter somewhere. It was a softball-sized hail somebody's holding. Was that what you're talking about?
Well, I had a friend of mine who works for Barron Weather. He out of Huntsville, and he posted some private person's video. She was standing under her front porch, looking at the hail coming down in her yard, and it was crashing through the windows of her car and knocked off her side mirrors, and it just absolutely destroyed that car. It was just awesome to watch.
No, I'll have to go check some of those out.
It was it was something else. I just wonder why she looked like she had a garage. I just wonder why she didn't have her car in the garage.
I don't know, but you get a car out in a hailstorm, it's pretty much gone. All right, Doc.
Sometimes
here we go, Doc. This is the Halls.
Yeah, we don't have much in hailstorm here, but we had one a few years ago. I was at my son's apartment, and it hit, and it just blew in. And after it was all done, all the apartment buildings on their north side, it looked like somebody took a machine gun and just peppered the side of the building, blew the windows out of his apartment. And he had a flower pot hanging on one of those shepherd hooks outside his patio. And at first it looked like there was a couple of little bullets that hit it, and also it looked like a shotgun blast just blew the thing apart. So that could do some damage.
Your stick.
These were at least golf ball size hail.
Yeah, this wasn't even that size.
Yeah, we had a hailstorm like that last year. It had about golf ball size hail and just pummeled the vehicles. Didn't really have a chance to pull anything in.
Yeah, well, we got our one Buick Century was white in color, and it got dimples all over it, and so we just took the money and paid it off. And when I sell a car, I said all those dimples in that car will be like a golf ball. It'll make it more aerodynamic going down the
All right, so
Yeah, for sure.
so since we've got on the subject of weather, bad weather, I'm gonna pull Walter in here now. Walter, the weather's really bad, like at Dallas last night. Hail, it's just terrible. You're on your final approach, man. What do you do?
Why have you gotten that far if the weather's that
Screaming panic.
Why have you gotten that
Goes
far?
another-
Well, you know, I tell you why.
divert?
No, I'll tell you why. Either your plane's on fire or you're out of fuel. Now,
It can't be both.
well, it's both. I'll tell you what, a
not
pilot told me.
Unless you're carrying those Chinese lithium-ion batteries, then you can fire
You're not
them.
giving him any big problems, are you,
Listen, a
Tom?
pilot, they practice. They practice.
No, those are just minor.
They practice every one of these things in a simulator. Believe me now. So look,
Yep.
a pilot told me one time. He says, "There's no such thing as having too much fuel unless you're on fire."
That's exactly
Now
right.
I agree with that. Now, but let's just say this. Okay, you're making your approach to Dallas. You're at 8,000 feet. Is that a good? 8,000 feet. Wind's blowing. You're about out of fuel. You don't have enough fuel to go around again.
Do what you have to do.
And let's see what else.
Put it down.
And you got a fire. And you got a
Tell them
fire.
move out.
And you
I'm
got a
coming
fire.
And you got a fire. What are you going to do?
And the catering was bad.
The catering was bad too. What are you gonna do? So
I'm gonna land and get some
It's
more.
bad. You're
catering.
landing it.
I'm calling for a pizza or something.
man, have you ever had to make any kind of serious weather landings in that Airbus?
I have 5 Cat 3 approaches in the Airbus.
Cat 3.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with Cat 5 in my work.
This is a little rougher than that. That would be visible.
Oh, no,
that
Cat-
would be visibility of 600 feet or less.
I'm talking Cat 5, like a
Down
data
a
cable.
cable. That's right.
But okay, so a Cat 3 approach.
A Cat 3 approach. That's the lowest visibility approach we're legally.
Is that lower than a Cat
authorized.
5?
There's not a Cat.
Oh, there's
5
not a 5.
approach.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
That's just in cabling.
Okay, so all right, so you had 3 Cat 3s.
We've had 5 of those.
Or 5.
I've been on the Airbus 20 years this month.
Now, how does that work? I mean,
Not right now. I'm on video.
is that just bad weather you can't see, or
Generally fog.
it's fog? Oh man!
Oh my God.
Look.
Oh,
Moving the video.
Oh no,
Well-
he's gone for his teammates. I'm afraid.
who's that?
That's the dorm room.
Hey, I saw my picture in his microwave back there. Did you see that? Did you see that? He's got a TV. He's got a TV screen on his microwave back there. I saw myself on his microwave, on Walter's microwave.
Oh,
You're on microwave now?
Yeah, I'm on microwave now. Look,
Right there.
look, there he is. Look at that. We got a clear picture of his
That's right.
microwave.
That's scary.
yep.
We must be.
Tom,
we
you're
must
on
be putting-
microwave.
Must be putting some power out to
You
get, on,
must be
band.
to get all the way down into Boonville.
to get on his microwave down in Boonville down here.
Only way I can eat ramen noodles here.
Oh man! All right, so you 5 Cat 3 landings,
Yep.
and does that you make you nervous? Are you just
It's just a
no problem? Just
training kicks in and watch everything as long as it does what it's supposed to do.
so you don't have to worry about anything.
Well, you keep an eye on it. You monitor everything.
Yeah, you got to keep a little thing kind of level like that.
Hopefully, it's doing it itself. Yeah.
And then
It's all auto land.
now does that voice that yells at you when you're landing, does that bother you?
Actually, no. That's part of my scan. I'm listening for that. So as
Yeah.
I'm watching the instruments are coming down, I'm listening for that at certain points, so I'll know it matches what I'm seeing here.
Okay.
So I just kind of incorporate it in my scan as a flight term, just on down until we touch down.
Okay. Well, I never.
Actually, if I didn't hear it, it would make me more nervous
Oh,
than
would
if
it?
I do hear. Yeah,
Would it?
because it's
Now-
a normal routine. It's
Did you,
part
did
of.
you have to calibrate your altimeter to the airport or anything, or is that all automatic now?
It's all barometric pressure.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, you set it to the local altimeter setting, which is barometric.
You set it to local. So you have to
whatever,
set it.
wherever airport you're going into. If you're going into Dallas or Albuquerque or Montreal,
So
or wherever
if you
set it
don't
to whatever
if you
that
don't
is,
set it,
you'll
then
be- you will
then
be off.
You're going to be off on.
you will be off
And that's not good.
unless it just happens to be the same.
That all comes over the ATIS.
What's an
There you
ATIS? What's an ATIS?
It's an automatic broadcast that gives you dial it in and listen to it. Actually, we just punch it up on a little box, but
Yeah.
and it comes up digitally. But you can dial the frequency in and listen to it.
Now the radar that you guys have in here for weather, does it actually can it see airplanes too on it?
No,
It just sees weather.
yeah,
Why didn't they put one in there you can see airplanes on?
they're trying to do that now.
Are they?
I don't want it in there,
You don't?
but it's going to happen. They're going to put it in there. It's just too much stuff to watch.
Yeah. Okay.
Getting to that point, I guess I'm getting too close to the end to start learning new tricks.
Yeah. Well, you know. Oh man.
They don't ask me these things. They just say,
I tell you,
by the
I
way,
would. I'd hate to be a pilot like you because, I mean, I flew there at FedEx for 34 years. I mean, not as much as you flew, but I was always flying, and I thought, man, one of these days, one of these things is going to go down. It's just a matter of time before it catches up with me. And you know, as you get closer and closer to retirement, you're thinking, you know, that time's getting closer and closer. You know.
That's it.
But hey, we made it.
We've made some changes and to safety, and hopefully we're back on the right track. We had a few rough years in there, but hopefully we're back on where we're supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, we've had some accidents.
We have indeed.
Yeah. We've had some major accidents where nobody was hurt in there. I had a friend that jump seated and I think it was a 10. It turned upside down up in New York or somewhere.
Yeah, landing gear collapsed.
And it bounced and it turned upside down. It landed on its back.
Yep. That's true.
And she was strapped in on a ceiling. And
They had to go
the
back
pilot came back there and helped get her down.
Yep,
You know.
I remember hearing that.
So what do you do? Just pop it and let her fall? So
Kind of brace, try to get up.
I would imagine you're kind of in a hurry to get out, right? Because you know, friction and smoke and gas fumes
and back to that fuel and fire thing you were talking about.
Yeah. You guys bear with us on the hangout here. We're in the aviation segment tonight for a few minutes. Now, can you?
Everybody's been flying high in this segment.
That's right. Is there a way that you can dump fuel if you have to on
In some airplanes, Airbus doesn't have fuel
Airbus
dump
can't do
capability.
it. So you just have to fly around till you burn it up.
Actually, Airbus has says it's okay to land overweight. Just be easy with it.
Oh, okay.
We like you guys to land easy all the time.
I do. Yeah. Well, that's why I have to go to the chiropractors all the bad first officer landings.
I've been in some landings where it really hit hard. It's like the shocks are like the springs are not there or something. I mean, it's like
Always blame it on the first officer. My
Absolutely.
God.
You don't think I'm gonna take the blame, do you?
Man, you know.
Spoken like a true pilot.
That's right.
I mean, don't they have shocks or something in those wheels that are not?
Yeah, they have struts, hydraulic struts, and
Really?
things. But the Airbus is a very stiff flying landing airplane.
To me, it felt like somebody welded, you know, the pipe that held the wheels right to the wing or something. I mean, no give or nothing, man. I mean, it hit hard.
I've never flown that MD-11, but I understand that you get down near the end, it can get a little squirrely, and they just kind of you're along for the ride.
So, all right. So you're not checked out on the MD-11?
No. I'm not that big a thrill.
All right. If we were flying in the MD-11 and the pilots ate some food and you know they got sick and you know they're back in the bathroom and couldn't fly, could you fly it?
Yeah.
You think you could?
Yeah.
Yeah, you hadn't been checked out.
Sorry, I checked myself out on the way to the landing.
You think you think you landed okay?
Yeah.
By yourself.
Spoken like a true pilot.
Both of them. Well, we'd have to. You wouldn't have a choice.
Well, I mean, if I was in there with you, you know,
if you were there,
if I was in there
wouldn't
with
have any
you,
problems.
I tell you, I'd let you have a left seat.
Would you?
Yeah. So I'd get in there with you. Now, what could I do to help?
Throw the gear down, talk on the radio.
Okay. And
keep the real guys in the back if they're sick.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you could.
I'd say you turn to Psalm 23.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Now, would you get the book? I always see these.
Dear Lord, please let me land this.
Yeah. I always see these emergency things on TV where the pilots have to get the book out to see what to do. Do y'all do that?
Oh, that's for cowards. No, I don't need a book.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it's kind of late to be looking in a book to look up what you got to do, right?
If I'm in this MD-11 trying to fly this thing, I'm going to have books
Google
all over
it.
that cockpit. That's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be
I
reading.
don't think they have Google while they're landing.
You're going to be reading emergency procedure like
need
it's
no
the Bible
stinking
to
manuals. So wait, is
Heck, I just watched that movie the other day, Airport. They could land that thing with a blow-up dummy.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was classic.
Well, all he was having other things going on.
Yeah.
So
He had a smile on his face, though, didn't he?
Yeah. So does any of our FedEx planes, can they land themselves? I mean, are they automated?
Oh yeah, they all can.
So a pilot could be back in the bathroom, it could land itself?
Hopefully not, but you can. Those low visibility approaches, they're all auto land.
Are they?
Just override it once you touch down.
But that's not set up from the ground, right? The pilot has to.
No, that's at altitude.
The pilot sets it up, right?
Think of flying in phases of flight. There'll be the taxi phase, and then you have the takeoff and climb phase, and there's a cruise phase, the descent, and then the approach and landing. And so each phase has to be programmed in to make it work.
But the ground can't program that in at all.
Not yet.
Yeah. Didn't I see some jumbo airline demo a while back where they flew one from like California to Hawaii? Nobody owned it and landed it. Do you guys see that?
Yeah, it was running low on fuel because they had a headwind.
Yeah, I mean they flew all the way.
They had calculated for a tailwind, but they had a headwind.
Takeoff and landing.
Well, I hadn't seen that one.
Yeah, it was a big. What was it, Doc? It was a big plane, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were going from Hawaii to San Francisco, and they were expecting a tailwind, so they calculated their fuel based on the tailwind, but they actually encountered a headwind, so that they had too little fuel for the margin of safety.
Okay.
They turned back.
That would be unusual to have a headwind from Hawaii to the West Coast.
Yeah.
Oh,
they miscalculated based on the windage.
Ham radio guys there said just pull back the stick, make the houses smaller. But
well, that's right. You keep pulling back, then they get bigger.
Now I jump seated to Dayton Ham Fest one year, and this was many years ago, probably 30 years ago. And the pilot told me, my neighbor was a pilot, he told me that back then they had some kind of procedure. I don't know if it was to eliminate noise or to save fuel, but man, we got over Dayton and he went almost straight down. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Well, there's procedures like that. Yeah, you get close and they'll tell you to maintain certain altitudes. Oakland's another one, landing on what's that, runway 29. You have to, because of airports below you, you have to maintain a certain altitude if you're on a visual before you can start down.
Yeah. Why do they leave that last zero off that 29? The last digit.
Just to cut a digit off.
What if the runway was 291? What would you do?
They round to the nearest mag.
Do they really?
Yeah.
It's still 29.
It's still 29, huh?
Yeah.
Even if it's 294?
Yeah.
Oh, that looks like that could cause some problems.
That does.
I mean, I don't know, but so what's the shortest runway you've landed your Airbus on?
John Wayne, Santa Ana.
I heard John Wayne is really short, man.
5,700 feet.
Well, that's over a mile.
Barely.
You can't stop that thing in a mile?
Oh, you can get it stopped. The trick's getting it back out of there.
Oh, you mean to take off?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That is the runway that all the performance is based off of for the Airbus.
Oh, okay. So it's all designed around.
It's all designed around
John Wayne, then.
Mm-hmm. That length of runway, 5,700 feet.
Okay.
That's actually kind of
fun. Well, you see our airport, our local airport here up in Marquette, the UP is We only got what the intermediate planes that just fly from here to Detroit to Chicago. But we got over a 2-mile runway down here.
Oh, really? Way up there? Okay, good.
Yep, they last the 747s and biggest planes they've got here in our little airport.
Very nice.
That's because it used to be a Sawyer International was the K.I. Sawyer Air Force Base before.
Okay.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you're not
A lot of
watching.
pilots landing here and they go, holy wow.
Yeah, and then you.
What a long
Where is John Wayne Airport? That's somewhere in California, isn't it?
That's Orange County.
They're what? L.A.
That's John Wayne, Santa Ana.
Santa Ana, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we when we went out there for the last man standing thing, we flew out to I guess L.A. Airport, whatever it is, and Bill Pasternak said we should have flown into John Wayne. He said it'd been a little closer.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for traffic and so forth, but we didn't. We'd already made our reservations.
Doc, you would really enjoy all the hardware out there at Santa Ana. There's some nice equipment sitting on the ramp.
What do you got there?
It's all corporate stuff. A lot of charter. A lot of the movie stars and all that keep their airplanes out there.
I bet John Travolta probably has his. What's he got? He got a 707 or something, don't he?
I think all of his is in Florida where he
Oh,
lives,
is it?
isn't it? I
don't know.
He's got
he can pull his plane up to his house.
He's got one at his house.
I mean, that's a big plane. He's got
a 727.
Okay, he can pull that up to his house.
Yeah.
You talking about John Travolta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He walks out of his house and goes to the hangar, pulls his plane out, and takes off.
You don't pull a hanger out. He pulls it up to the front door.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't even need cars when he has a plane.
That's right.
He used to park that thing at Wilmington, North Carolina, quite often.
Wow.
Didn't he fly for Qantas Air for a while or two? He was doing that.
I think
He was an
he did
ambassador
a
for
commercial
them,
for him or something. One of those airlines. He holds some type of master pilot's license with one of those airlines.
I don't know. I don't know that he has an ATP rating. I don't know if he can do that or not. There have been stories about that through the years that he actually has qualified guys go with him.
Huh. I even signed with a uniform on, you know.
Well, okay, then he must have then.
You know,
he's all set
with the little things on, and you know, looks like
he's got the uniform,
the whole bit.
Yeah,
that's all it takes, right?
Yeah, the trappings. That's exactly right.
Oh. Now, I flew down to Puerto Rico one year in our planes, and you know, I think I got some pilots who've never been there before. I guess that happens, right?
Sure.
Because we landed, and we were going down a runway pretty fast, and they kept talking about they didn't know where the office was. And the guy says, "There it is," and I never saw him turn a plane that sharp before. You know, it's like he turned it on 2 wheels, man. It's like, you know, right into that place.
That's how he does it. That's how Dad does it.
Does he?
Not quite that bad.
Oh man.
Most
All
of the
that
time,
bad catering.
That's right. And there's no shortage of that.
I had a pilot fly in jump seat with me a couple years ago. Well, it's been probably 5 years ago to Miami. He was from another airline. They can fly on our plane, I guess.
Right,
I don't know what the deal is, but he was back here, and we were talking about air disasters or something. Good subject to be on, you know.
Oh, wonderful.
I mean, we hit hard, man. We landed, we hit hard, and he screamed, just about. He, it really scared him.
That'll teach
Oh
you.
man, yeah.
Tom, I'm gonna get out of here.
All
Good
right.
night.
All right, Doc. Hey, next week.
You got a lot of cigar left. You're leaving already.
Well, I do, but I'm gonna read my Facebook here
All
for a
right.
minute, and then I'm gonna go to bed.
Well, look, Doc, if I'm not any better next week, I'll check in with you again, and we'll just have to try something else.
Well, if you're not on, I'll know to send some flowers.
Okay.
All right, Doc. Good night. Have a good night.
We'll see you later.
You can always
All right.
get a little Dr. Hartley's.
All right. Good night, guys.
All right, good night.
Night.
I
Good
probably
night.
already get off here.
Good night,
It's
Doc.
after 10 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and sign out too and visit here with my friends here for a few minutes. 73 to everybody.
73.
Thanks
Have
for
a great
joining
week.
us tonight. Yeah.
73. Good night, Walter. See you tomorrow.
All right. So off here. Let's see. We'll put the old cat
So
on
you're
for a
saying I
second.
can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer.
What?
You just type in the question.
No, it looks like he does it.
Read his mind.
No, I just made it.
There the answer comes.
No.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.